The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. For millennia, the Jedi had taught that the Force guided all conflicts, all resolutions, all paths to peace. But what happens when a civilization forged in fire and blood, who knew nothing of the Force and cared even less, tears through the fabric of space itself? What happens when honor, not mysticism, becomes the highest law? The spatial anomaly appeared without warning in the Outer Rim, near the war-torn world of Ryloth. Republic sensors registered it as a subspace rupture, impossible by all known laws of hyperspace physics. The tear in reality burned like a wound in the fabric of space, crackling with energies that made nearby asteroids simply cease to exist. And through that wound came ships. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, angular, predatory vessels with wings swept back like birds of prey. Their hulls were a mottled green-gray, scarred from countless battles in a war no one in this galaxy had ever heard of. No Republic transponder codes, no separatist signatures. These ships moved with purpose and aggression, their impulse engines flaring as they adjusted to a universe where subspace didn't exist, and their warp drives were suddenly, catastrophically useless. On the bridge of the lead vessel, the IKS Bortas, Commander Martok stood with his arms crossed, his one good eye scanning the view screen with growing frustration. His ridged forehead furrowed deeper as his tactical officer delivered the impossible news. Commander, warp drive is non-responsive. We are operating on impulse power only. Long-range sensors detect no subspace signatures whatsoever. It is as if subspace does not exist here. Martok's hand instinctively went to the Dak-Tog blade at his side. Around him, his bridge crew, 20 hardened Klingon warriors who had fought Borg, Dominion, and countless enemies across the Alpha Quadrant, looked to him for orders. Behind the Bortas, 3 birds of prey and a Vorcha-class attack cruiser held formation, waiting. "Then we are stranded," Martok said simply, his voice like grinding stone. "In an unknown region of space, unable to return home." He turned to his crew, and a fierce smile crossed his scarred face. "What say you, warriors of the Empire? Do we cower? Do we weep for home?" "Kapla!" The response was immediate and thunderous. "Glory, victory, the Klingon way. Helm, all ahead, full impulse. We will find this galaxy's inhabitants, and we will learn if they are worthy of respect or conquest." Martok settled into his command chair. "Tactical, bring all weapons online. If they greet us with hostility, we will respond with honor." The Klingon fleet surged forward into the unknown, their disruptor arrays charged and ready. Below them, on the surface of Ryloth, 2 armies were locked in brutal combat, and neither had any idea that the galaxy's balance of power was about to shift forever. If you want to see more factions and civilizations enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a species or empire you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The skies over Ryloth burned with plasma fire and the acrid stench of ozone. Clone troopers in white armor held defensive positions along a ridge, their DC-15 blaster rifles spitting bolts of blue energy at the advancing tide of separatist battle droids. The metallic clank of droid feet echoed across the barren landscape as B-1 units marched forward with their emotionless, programmed precision. "Hold the line!" Commander Cody's voice crackled through the comms. "Air support is 2 minutes out. We just need to—" The sky tore open. 5 ships dropped out of nowhere, not from hyperspace, not from atmospheric entry, but simply appearing as if reality itself had vomited them into existence. The Klingon fleet descended rapidly, their impulse engines screaming as they adjusted to atmospheric flight. "What the hell are those?" a clone trooper shouted, his rifle momentarily lowering. On the opposite side of the battlefield, the separatist tactical droid UM-224 processed the new arrivals with cold efficiency. Unknown vessels, Configuration does not match Republic or neutral system signatures. Probability of third-party intervention, 94%. Awaiting orders. The orders never came. Martok watched the battlefield below with growing interest. His tactical officer had identified two distinct forces engaged in combat. One side appeared to be organic soldiers in identical armor, the other was clearly mechanical in nature. Droids. His lip curled in disgust. "Warriors fighting machines?" he growled. "Dishonorable combat. Machines have no glory to win, no honor to lose." He leaned forward. "Tactical. Target the mechanical forces. Full disruptor spread." "Commander, we do not know the political situation. I know enough." Martok's voice was iron. "Machines cannot be warriors. Fire." The Bortas and its escort ships opened fire with devastating precision. Green disruptor beams lanced down from the sky, striking the advancing droid columns with overwhelming force. Unlike blaster fire, which droids were designed to withstand, disruptor technology operated on entirely different principles. Molecular disruption at the quantum level. The first volley struck a line of super battle droids, and they simply disintegrated into clouds of atomized metal. The B-1 droids barely had time to look up before the next salvo hit. "Uh-oh," one managed to say before ceasing to exist. Commander Cody watched in stunned silence as the mysterious ships obliterated the Separatist forces in seconds. Whatever weapons those vessels carried, they made Republic turbo-lasers look like training blasters. Within 30 seconds, the entire droid battalion was reduced to smoking craters and scattered debris. The Klingon ships descended lower, their landing struts extending. Martok stood from his command chair. "Prepare a landing party. 20 warriors. Full armor and batleths. We will meet these soldiers face to face." "Commander," his first officer cautioned, "we should establish communications first." "We are Klingons!" Martok roared. "We do not hide behind subspace channels and holograms. We meet warriors with honor, face to face, blood to blood." He grabbed his own batleth from its mount on the wall, a curved blade of folded metal that had ended more lives than he could count. "Come, let us see if this galaxy breeds true warriors." The Bortas landed with a heavy thud that shook the ground. Its landing ramp extended with a hiss of hydraulics, and from within came a sight that would haunt Republic records for years to come. 20 Klingon warriors descended the ramp in full battle armor, ridged skulls, leather and metal plating, bandoliers of weapons, and eyes that burned with barely contained aggression. Each carried a batleth or mechleth blade, along with disruptor pistols at their hips. They moved with the confidence of apex predators, their boots crushing Ryloth's red soil with each step. At their head walked Martok, his scarred face set in an expression that was equal parts curiosity and challenge. Commander Cody and his men had their blasters raised, fingers on triggers, but something made them hesitate. These weren't droids. These weren't separatists. These were warriors. That much was clear in every line of their bodies, every deliberate movement. "Identify yourself," Cody called out, his voice amplified by his helmet's external speakers. "You've entered a Republic military operation. State your allegiance." Martok stopped 10 meters away. He planted his batleth in the ground and crossed his arms, his one good eye studying the clone troopers with interest. Behind his ridged brow, calculations were being made. Armor quality, weapon positioning, discipline in their ranks. "I am Martok, son of Earthog, commander of the IKS Bortas and warrior of the Klingon Empire." His voice carried across the battlefield like a war drum. "We have no allegiance in this place because we know nothing of this place. We saw warriors fighting machines, and we destroyed the machines. Now!" He pulled his batleth free and rested it across his shoulders. "Tell me, soldier, do you fight with honor, or do you hide behind masks like cowards?" Cody's finger tightened on his trigger. Around him, 24 clone troopers aimed their DC-15s at the Klingon warriors. The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. And then, cutting through the standoff like a lightsaber through blast doors, a new voice spoke, calm, measured, and resonating with a power that even the Klingons could feel. "Lower your weapons, Commander. These warriors have just saved your position." A Twi'lek Jedi Master descended from a Republic gunship, her green skin gleaming in Ryloth's harsh sunlight. Her lightsaber hung unignited at her belt, but her presence seemed to fill the entire battlefield. Master Alara moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent decades mastering the Force, her leku twitching slightly as she sensed the emotional maelstrom radiating from the Klingon warriors: aggression, pride, honor, and not a single trace of fear. Martok turned to face her, and his eye narrowed. "You command these soldiers?" "I guide them," Alara corrected gently. "I am Master Alara of the Jedi Order. You are far from home, Commander Martok. The Force brought you here for a reason." "The Force?" Martok's expression was pure confusion. "I know nothing of this Force. We came through a spatial anomaly, a tear in subspace that stranded us in your galaxy. Your technology is alien to us. Your wars are not our wars." He gestured to the destroyed droids. "But we know warriors when we see them, and we know machines. Machines do not deserve glory. Warriors do." Alara tilted her head, studying this scarred alien with his brutal blade and his absolute certainty. In all her years, she had never encountered a being so utterly disconnected from the Force, yet so intensely alive. It was like staring at a flame that burned without fuel, pure will and aggression given form. "Then perhaps," she said carefully, "we should speak. Your arrival comes at a critical time. The galaxy is at war and—" "Good!" Martok's grin was feral. "War is where warriors find their truest selves. Tell me of your enemies, Jedi. Tell me if they fight with honor, or if they are cowards like these machines." He kicked a destroyed droid head, sending it rolling across the red soil. "The Klingon Empire has no home to return to in this place. Very well. We will carve a new home from the bones of our enemies." Commander Cody lowered his blaster slowly, glancing at Master Alara. The Jedi's face was troubled, her connection to the Force showing her glimpses of possible futures, some glorious, some catastrophic, all of them fundamentally changed by the presence of these warriors who stood outside the Force's influence. "Commander Cody," she said quietly, "contact Coruscant immediately. Tell the Council we have a situation that requires their immediate attention." She looked back at Martok. "And tell them we may have just gained an ally, or unleashed something far more dangerous." Martok laughed, a deep, booming sound that echoed across the battlefield. "Dangerous? Yes. Allies?" He hefted his batleth. "That remains to be seen, Jedi. That remains to be seen." Above them, the Klingon fleet held position, their cloaking devices charging, their weapons still hot from battle. And across the galaxy, in the spires of Coruscant and the shadows of Sereno, beings far more powerful than clone troopers were beginning to take notice of the warriors who had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant had stood for millennia, its 5 spires reaching toward the sky like fingers grasping at cosmic truth. Within its meditation chambers, training halls, and council rooms, the Force flowed like a river, constant, reassuring, binding all things in luminous harmony. But today, that harmony was disrupted by something the Jedi had never encountered, a complete absence. Master Yoda sat in his council chamber chair, his ancient eyes closed, his mind reaching across the galaxy through the Force. He could sense Master Alara on Ryloth, feel the life energy of the clone troopers, touch the faint presence of the Twi'lek civilians caught in the crossfire. But when his consciousness brushed against the Klingon warriors, he encountered not darkness, Darkness was still part of the Force, but nothing. A void shaped like living beings. It was profoundly disturbing. "Troubling this is," Yoda murmured, opening his eyes. Around him, the Jedi Council had assembled via hologram. Master Windu from a Star Destroyer in the Mid-Rim, Master Plo Koon from Cato Neimoidia, and 6 others scattered across the war-torn galaxy. Mace Windu's hologram flickered as he spoke, his expression grim. "Master Alara's report is clear. These Klingons possess technology we've never encountered. Their weapons disintegrated Separatist droids in seconds. Their ships appeared without hyperspace signatures. And most concerning," he paused, his hand unconsciously moving toward his lightsaber. "They exist outside the Force, completely outside it." "Impossible," Ki-Adi-Mundi interjected. "The Force binds all living things. These beings breathe, think, feel. They must be connected to the Force. Yet sense them we cannot," Yoda said quietly. "Like shadows they are, but not of darkness. Simply absent. Never before have I encountered such beings." On Ryloth, Master Alara stood in the makeshift command center, acutely aware that her holographic image was being projected into the council chamber. Behind her, through the transparasteel window, she could see the Klingon encampment. A dozen warriors had remained on the surface while their ships held orbit. They had claimed a section of the battlefield as their own territory, posting guards and establishing a perimeter with military efficiency that impressed even Commander Cody. "Masters," Alara said carefully, "I've spent 3 hours observing these warriors. They are not our enemies, not yet. But they are also not diplomatic. Their culture revolves around honor, combat, and what they call glory. When I tried to explain the Republic's democratic values, Commander Martok looked at me as if I'd spoken madness." "Do they understand the war?" Master Plo Koon asked. "Do they comprehend what the Separatists represent?" "They understand that droids are machines, and machines offend their sense of honor." Alara's Leku twitched with concern. "To them, fighting droids is like fighting training dummies. There's no glory in it, no worthy opponent. But when they learned the Separatists also employ organic commanders and bounty hunters..." She hesitated. Martok's exact words were, "Now you speak of worthy enemies." Mace Windu leaned forward. "What do they want? What's their price for alliance?" "That's the problem, Master. They don't want credits, territory, or political favors. They want..." Alara struggled to find the words. "They want to test us. Martok has demanded what he calls trial by combat, a duel between one of their warriors and a Jedi, to determine if we are true warriors or sorcerers hiding behind mysticism." The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Master Windu spoke, his voice dangerously low. "They want to fight a Jedi Master in single combat? To prove themselves?" "To prove us," Alara corrected. "In their culture, honor is earned through direct conflict. They see our lightsabers, our force abilities, and they are skeptical. They believe we might be using tricks to avoid real combat." Yoda's ears lowered. "Arrogant they are. Dangerous such arrogance is." "Perhaps," Alara admitted. "But masters, I've seen them fight. Their physical strength is remarkable, easily twice that of a human. Their reflexes are honed by centuries of warrior culture. And their weapons..." She gestured to a datapad showing scans of a bat-leth. "Folded metal forged in ways our metallurgists don't understand. A blade that could probably deflect a lightsaber strike, at least briefly." "Deflect a lightsaber?" Ki-Adi-Mundi scoffed. "Impossible. The plasma blade cuts through most materials," Alara interrupted gently. "Masters, these beings come from beyond our galaxy. Their technology, their metallurgy, their very existence suggests that our understanding of the universe might be incomplete." The implications hung heavy in the air. For 10,000 generations, the Jedi had been the guardians of peace and justice. Their connection to the Force giving them insight and power beyond that of ordinary beings. The arrival of warriors who existed outside the Force, who challenged the very premise of Jedi superiority, struck at the foundation of their identity. Mace Windu made his decision. "I'll go to Ryloth. If this Commander Martok wants a duel, he'll get one. We'll show these Klingons that the Force is not a trick. It's the fundamental power of the universe." "Careful, you must be," Yoda warned. "Underestimate them, you should not. Outside the Force they stand, yes, but powerless they are not." "I understand, Master," Windu's hologram nodded. "But we cannot appear weak. Not now, not with the Separatists already fracturing Republic unity. If the Klingons see us as cowards or frauds, they'll ally with Dooku. Or worse, they'll become a third faction we can't afford to fight." "There is another concern," Plo Koon interjected. "If these warriors came through a spatial anomaly, might others follow? Could this be the first of multiple incursions?" No one had an answer. On the bridge of the Bordas, Martok reviewed the sensor data with growing frustration. His crew had been scanning the surrounding space for 3 hours, trying to understand the fundamental physics of this galaxy. What they'd discovered was both fascinating and infuriating. "Hyperspace," his science officer reported, "a rare breed of Klingon who valued knowledge over glory. The dominant species in this galaxy use a dimension they call hyperspace for faster-than-light travel. It is incompatible with our warp drive technology. The physics are fundamentally different." "Explain," Martok growled. "Warp drive folds subspace around the ship, allowing it to exceed light speed while remaining in normal space. Hyperspace appears to be an entirely separate dimensional plane. Ships literally leave this dimension and travel through another." The science officer looked up. "Commander, we cannot access hyperspace. Our warp cores are not designed for dimensional travel. We are limited to impulse speed, which means we cannot travel between star systems in any reasonable time," Martok finished. His hand curled into a fist. "We are trapped in this region of space. Unless we acquire hyperspace technology," his first officer suggested. "From the locals." Martok considered this. Around him, the bridge crew waited. These were warriors who had accepted their likely deaths the moment they passed through the anomaly. Being stranded in an unknown galaxy was simply another challenge to overcome. "What else have we learned?" Martok asked. "The galaxy is in civil war. 2 primary factions, the Galactic Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems, also called Separatists. The Republic appears to be a democratic government supported by the Jedi Order, the mystics we encountered. The Separatists are a coalition of corporate interests and planetary governments seeking independence." "And the Jedi?" Martok's eye gleamed with interest. "What are they, truly?" "Warriors with unusual abilities. Telekinesis, precognition, mental influence. They claim connection to something called the Force, an energy field that binds the galaxy together. Our sensors detect nothing of the sort. Either it is beyond our technology's ability to measure or it is superstition dressed as science," Martok said. "We shall see. This Mace Windu comes to duel. If he proves himself a true warrior, we may consider alliance with the Republic. If he hides behind his Force powers like a coward," Martok's grin was predatory, "then we will know this galaxy's weakness, and we will exploit it." A communication signal chimed. The view screen activated, showing Master Alara's image. "Commander Martok, Master Windu has accepted your challenge. He will arrive in 6 hours. The duel will be held on neutral ground with witnesses from both sides. Do you accept these terms?" Martok stood, his armor creaking. "I accept. Tell your Master Windu to bring his finest blade and his strongest spirit. If he is a true warrior, he has nothing to fear. If he is a fraud, Martok's expression darkened. Then he should prepare for death. The transmission ended. Around Martok, his warriors began preparing, not for war, but for something potentially more significant. In Klingon culture, single combat between champions could determine the fate of entire worlds. If Windu won with honor, the Klingons would respect the Jedi. If he won through trickery or refused to fight, they would become enemies. And if Martok won, the galaxy would learn that the Force was not the only path to power. 6 hours. The countdown had begun, and neither the Jedi Council nor the Klingon High Command fully understood what they had set in motion. On a dusty battlefield on Ryloth, two warrior cultures would collide, one ancient and mystical, one brutal and honorable. Only one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. The improvised arena on Ryloth's surface was nothing more than a cleared circle of scorched earth, 50 meters in diameter, marked by fallen debris from the morning's battle. Clone troopers formed a perimeter on one side, their white armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. Opposite them stood Klingon warriors, 20 strong, each with a batleth resting across their shoulders. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Master Mace Windu stepped into the circle with the fluid grace of a lifetime Jedi Master. His purple lightsaber hung at his belt, unignited. He wore simple robes, brown and tan, practical for combat, and his expression was carved from stone. Behind him, Master Alara and Commander Cody watched with barely concealed anxiety. Martok entered from the opposite side, and the contrast was stark. Where Windu moved with controlled precision, Martok strode forward with barely restrained aggression, each step purposeful and heavy. He carried his batleth in both hands, the curved blade catching the light like a predator's smile. His scarred face was set in an expression of fierce anticipation. They stopped 5 meters apart. "Master Windu!" Martok's voice boomed across the arena. "The Jedi send their finest, I presume." "I am a member of the Jedi Council," Windu replied evenly. "I've fought in countless battles across this galaxy. I am here to show you that the Jedi are not frauds or cowards." He gestured to the batleth. "But I am also here to question your assumptions, Commander. Combat prowess alone does not determine worth." "Then you are already defeated," Martok laughed. "A warrior who does not believe in the sanctity of combat is no warrior at all." He lifted his batleth into a ready stance, the curved blade forming a crescent before him. "Come, Jedi, show me your force. Show me if it is power, or simply illusion." Windu's hand moved to his lightsaber, and the distinctive snap hiss of ignition echoed across the arena. The purple blade hummed with contained plasma energy, casting violet light across his dark features. Around the circle, clone troopers shifted nervously. They had seen Master Windu fight, had witnessed his mastery of Vapad, the most aggressive of lightsaber forms. But they had also seen what Klingon disruptors did to battle droids. Martok's eye widened slightly at the sight of the lightsaber. "Ah, a plasma blade. Elegant. But can you use it?" "There is no try," Windu said quietly, settling into Vapad's opening stance. "Only do." They circled each other like predators, neither willing to make the first move. Windu extended his senses through the Force, trying to read Martok's intentions, predict his next action, and encountered that same disturbing void. It was like fighting blind, relying purely on physical observation. Martok gave no indication of his next move, no subtle shift in the Force to warn of incoming danger. Martok struck first. The batleth came around in a horizontal slash that would have decapitated a human. Windu blocked with his lightsaber, and the two weapons met with a shower of sparks and a sound like a screaming engine. The batleth didn't melt, didn't shear apart. The folded metal, forged in ways that defied Republic understanding, held against the plasma blade, if only for a second. Martok pulled back and struck again, this time from above. Windu sidestepped and countered with a thrust toward Martok's chest. The Klingon twisted with shocking speed for someone his size, the lightsaber passing millimeters from his ribcage, and brought his batleth around in a backhand strike. The blade connected with Windu's shoulder, not cutting, but impacting with enough force to send the Jedi Master staggering sideways. Pain flared across Windu's senses. That single strike had hit like a falling speeder. "First blood to me," Martok grinned, circling again. "Your force did not protect you." Windu reset his stance, his shoulder aching. He had blocked dozens of blows in his lifetime, blaster bolts, vibro blades, even force pikes. But the raw kinetic energy behind Martok's strike was unlike anything he'd encountered. This wasn't just skill, this was physiological advantage. Klingon musculature was denser, stronger, evolved for heavy gravity worlds and brutal combat. "You're strong," Windu admitted, "but strength is not everything." He moved, and this time he employed the Force not to predict Martok's actions, which was impossible, but to enhance his own. Windu became a blur of motion, his lightsaber striking from 3 angles simultaneously, each blow precisely calculated. Martok blocked the first 2, his batleth moving with practiced efficiency, but the third strike grazed his arm, burning through leather armor and leaving a cauterized line across his bicep. Martok glanced at the wound and laughed, actually laughed. "Yes, now we fight!" He lunged forward with renewed aggression, his batleth becoming a whirlwind of curved metal. The duel escalated into something neither Jedi nor Klingon had experienced before. Windu fought with Vapad's aggressive precision, channeling his emotions into focused strikes, using the Force to enhance speed and perception. Martok fought with centuries of Klingon martial tradition, every move honed by a culture that valued combat above all else. They were evenly matched, and both knew it. Windu pressed forward with a flurry of strikes, his purple blade leaving afterimages in the air. Martok gave ground but never panicked, his batleth deflecting plasma with impossible precision. When Windu overextended on a thrust, Martok caught the lightsaber between the batleth's curved blades and twisted, nearly wrenching the weapon from the Jedi's grasp. Windu released the lightsaber, letting it deactivate and fall, and immediately reached out with the Force. Martok's batleth flew from his hands, spinning through the air to land 30 meters away. For a heartbeat, they stood there, both disarmed, breathing hard, covered in minor wounds. Then Martok smiled, a genuine, respectful smile. "You fight with honor, Jedi. You do not hide behind your powers. You use them as a warrior uses his blade, as an extension of yourself." He walked calmly to retrieve his batleth, then returned to the center of the circle. "I declare this duel a draw. You are neither fraud nor coward. You are a warrior." Windu used the Force to summon his lightsaber back to his hand, but he didn't ignite it. "And you, Commander, are more than a simple brute. You fight with discipline and control. The Klingon Empire is formidable." Martok planted his batleth in the ground and extended his hand, a human gesture he must have observed from the clone troopers. "Then let us speak as warriors, not enemies. Your republic interests me. Tell me, who are your true foes? Where is the real battle?" Around the arena, clone troopers and Klingon warriors relaxed fractionally. The duel had ended without death, without dishonor. In both cultures, this meant something. Master Alara stepped forward, her relief palpable through the Force. "Commander Martok, if you're willing to listen, we have much to discuss. The Separatist Alliance is only one part of the threat. There are darker forces at work in this galaxy, forces that seek to destroy the Jedi and enslave entire star systems." "Slavers?" Martok's eye narrowed. "Enslavement is dishonorable. There is no glory in chains." "Then you'll want to hear about the Sith," Windu said quietly. "An ancient enemy of the Jedi, thought extinct for a millennium. But they've returned, and they're orchestrating this war from the shadows. Count Dooku, the Separatist leader, is a Sith Lord. Martok absorbed this information with visible interest. Hidden enemies, manipulation. This Dooku uses others to fight his battles? His expression darkened. Cowardice. We should find this Sith Lord and challenge him directly. It's not that simple, Alara interjected. Count Dooku is powerful in the Force. He commands armies of droids and has the support of the galaxy's largest corporations. A direct assault would be glorious, Martok finished. Jedi, I begin to understand your war. You fight with one hand tied, bound by your democracy and your councils. You know where your enemy is, yet you do not strike. He shook his head. The Klingon way is more direct, but... He paused, considering. We are strangers here. We have 4 ships, and perhaps 200 warriors. We cannot conquer a galaxy alone. We're not asking you to conquer, Windu said carefully. We're asking for your help. Your technology, your warriors, your perspective. In exchange, we can offer you hyperspace technology, intelligence on local systems, and a place in the Republic's war effort. A place? Martok laughed. No, Jedi. If the Klingon Empire joins your war, we do not take a place. We carve our own territory, fight our own battles, and claim our own glory. We are not Republic soldiers. We are warriors of the Empire. Windu and Alara exchanged glances. This was the critical moment. Accept Klingon independence and risk creating an uncontrolled faction, or refuse and potentially make them enemies. Before either Jedi could respond, an alarm shrieked across the battlefield. Commander Cody's voice cut through the comms. Separatist fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. 2 Providence-class destroyers and a full complement of Vulture droids. They're launching an assault on our position. Above them, the sky darkened as massive dagger-shaped warships emerged from hyperspace, their hulls bristling with turbo-laser batteries. The Separatists had returned in force, and Ryloth's fragile defense was about to be tested. Martok looked up at the enemy fleet, then at his own ships holding orbit nearby. His grin returned, feral and eager. It seems, Master Windu, that we will fight together whether you wish it or not. He activated his communicator. Board us. This is Martok. All ships, battle stations. Target those capital ships. Show these machines what it means to face the Klingon Empire. He looked at Windu. Shall we see how Jedi and Klingons fight side by side? Windu ignited his lightsaber, its purple blade humming defiantly against the approaching darkness. Commander Cody, all troops to defensive positions. Master Alara, coordinate with the gunships, and Commander Martok. He met the Klingon's one-eyed gaze. Try to keep up. Martok's answering laugh was drowned out by the thunder of the first turbo-laser barrage hammering into Ryloth's surface. The Separatist assault was methodical and overwhelming. 2 Providence-class destroyers hung in low orbit like predatory insects, their turbo-laser batteries raining emerald death onto Republic positions. Vulture droid starfighters swarmed from launch bays in precise formations, their twin laser cannons strafing clone trooper emplacements. The droids had calculated that Ryloth's remaining defenses would collapse within 14 minutes. They had not calculated for Klingons. The IKS Bortus rose from the surface on impulse power, its angular hull accelerating toward the nearest Providence destroyer with startling speed. Behind it, 3 birds of prey shimmered as their cloaking devices activated. One moment visible, the next simply gone from all sensors. The Vorcha-class attack cruiser broke high, positioning itself above the battlefield like a hawk preparing to dive. On the Bortus bridge, Martok gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under turbo-laser fire. The deflector shields, designed to withstand photon torpedoes and phaser arrays, held against the energy weapons, but the technology was fundamentally different. Each impact drained more power than anticipated. Shields at 70%, his tactical officer reported. "These turbo lasers pack considerable force." "Then we end this quickly," Martok growled. "Full disruptor spread. Target their bridge." The Bortas unleashed a barrage that lit up space with green fire. Disruptor beams, molecular disintegration weaponry that operated on principles unknown to Star Wars physics, slammed into the Providence destroyer's forward shields. The shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing under technology they were never designed to resist. The beams punched through the armored hull and vaporized the destroyer's primary command center. The massive ship listed to starboard, fires erupting along its spine as secondary explosions rippled through the superstructure. "Impossible!" the tactical droid commanding the second destroyer processed. "No Republic weapon has that penetration capability. Recalculating threat assessment." 3 birds of prey decloaked directly above the second destroyer, their positions impossible according to every Republic and Separatist tactical doctrine. They had approached under cloak, positioning themselves in the destroyer's blind spot, the small zone directly above a capital ship, where turbo laser batteries couldn't angle their fire. The birds of prey fired in unison. Photon torpedoes, matter-antimatter warheads wrapped in gravimetric fields, streaked down at relativistic speeds. They impacted the destroyer's hull in a cascade of explosions that would have made a proton torpedo look like a firecracker. 1 torpedo, 2, 6. The destroyer's shields buckled, then shattered, and the final volley punched through to the reactor core. The Providence-class destroyer died in a ball of expanding plasma that lit Ryloth's atmosphere like a second sun. On the surface, Commander Cody watched through his macro binoculars as 2 of the galaxy's most powerful warship classes were reduced to debris in under 3 minutes. His voice was barely a whisper. "By the Force." "The Force had nothing to do with that," Master Windu said grimly. He had felt the deaths through the Force, thousands of droid consciousnesses winking out simultaneously. But beneath that, something else. The Klingon warriors radiated satisfaction, even joy. They celebrated the destruction the way Jedi mourned it. Master Alara stood beside them, her montrals twitching with agitation. "Masters, we need to discuss what this means. Those ships, that technology, it's beyond anything in Republic arsenals. If the Klingons decided to turn hostile, then we would face an enemy we cannot predict through the Force," Windu finished. "I know, but right now they're fighting on our side. We need to ensure they stay that way." Above them, vulture droids swarmed toward the Klingon fleet, their programming adapting to the new threat. Hundreds of starfighters against 4 capital ships. Numerical superiority was the Separatist way. The Vorcha-class cruiser dropped into their midst like a wolf into a flock of birds. Its disruptor arrays fired in a continuous stream, each beam vaporizing a vulture droid on contact. No dogfighting, no fancy maneuvers, just overwhelming firepower applied with brutal efficiency. Within seconds, 40 droid fighters were reduced to expanding clouds of atomized metal. The remaining vultures adapted, spreading their formation and attempting to flank. But Klingon tactical doctrine didn't rely on finesse. The Vorcha simply rotated its hull, bringing fresh weapon batteries to bear, and continued the slaughter. In orbit, Martok watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. His crew had performed flawlessly, every warrior at their station, every weapon firing with precision. This was what Klingons were born for: glorious combat against overwhelming odds. "Commander," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission, audio only. The speaker identifies himself as Count Dooku." Martok's eye narrowed. The Sith Lord the Jedi had mentioned. "Put him through." The voice that filled the bridge was smooth, cultured, and utterly confident. The voice of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Commander Martok, I presume. I am Count Dooku, leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Your display of force is impressive, quite impressive indeed." You sent machines to fight warriors, Martok replied coldly. You insult the very concept of combat. Why should I not destroy every one of your ships and add your territory to Klingon conquest? A pause, then soft laughter. Because you are strangers in an unknown galaxy, Commander. Because your 4 ships, however formidable, cannot stand against the Republic's 3 million clone troopers and 1,000-ship navy. Because you need allies, technology, and knowledge. Dooku's tone sharpened. And because I can offer you something the Republic never will. Freedom. Explain. The Galactic Republic is a failing democracy, Commander. Corrupt, bureaucratic, paralyzed by endless debate. The Jedi serve as its attack dogs, claiming moral authority while enforcing conformity across 1,000 systems. Dooku's words were measured, persuasive. My confederacy seeks independence, the right of systems to govern themselves without Republic interference. We fight for freedom, not tyranny. Martok glanced at his first officer, who was monitoring the tactical situation. The remaining droid forces were retreating, their mission clearly a failure. But Dooku hadn't called to surrender. He'd called to recruit. You speak of freedom while using slave machines to fight your battles? Martok said. Where is the honor in that? Honor? Dooku's voice carried genuine curiosity. An interesting concept from a warrior culture. Very well, Commander, let me be direct. The droids are tools, no different than your starships or weapons. They spare organic lives on both sides. Is that not pragmatic? It is cowardice, Martok spat. Warriors earn glory through personal combat, personal risk. Your machines steal that from both sides. Then perhaps, Dooku suggested smoothly, you would be interested in meeting warriors who share your philosophy. The Confederacy includes the Mandalorians, a culture built on combat prowess and honor. They would recognize kinship with Klingons far more readily than the Jedi ever could. That gave Martok pause. The Jedi fought well, Windu had proven that, but their philosophy of detachment, of emotional control, was alien to Klingon values. If this galaxy contained warriors who valued honor and glory as the Klingon Empire did, you seek to divide me from the Republic, Martok said, to recruit me to your confederacy. I seek to offer you a choice, Dooku corrected. The Republic will use you, Commander. They will deploy your ships to the deadliest battlefields, spend your warriors' lives like currency, and offer only empty gratitude in return. The Confederacy offers partnership. We can provide hyperspace technology in exchange for access to your weapon systems. Imagine, disruptors mounted on our ships, cloaking devices protecting our fleets. Together, we could end this war in months. Martok was silent, considering. His crew watched him, waiting for their commander's decision. Finally, he spoke. Count Dooku, your offer is noted, but the Klingon Empire does not make alliances with those who hide behind machines and manipulate from shadows. If you wish to earn Klingon respect, face me in personal combat. Prove you are a warrior, not simply a politician with delusions of grandeur. The silence that followed was profound. When Dooku spoke again, his voice carried cold amusement. You wish to duel a Sith Lord, Commander. How refreshing. Very well. I accept your challenge, but not today. First, let me demonstrate what the dark side of the Force can accomplish. Then we shall meet in combat, and you will learn that some powers transcend simple physical strength. The transmission ended. Martok sat back in his command chair, his expression thoughtful. Around him, his bridge crew exchanged glances. They had just challenged a Sith Lord to single combat, something even the Jedi hesitated to do. Commander, his first officer ventured carefully, was that wise? We know nothing of this dark side or Dooku's capabilities. Which is why we must test him, Martok replied. The Jedi claim the Sith are the true enemy. Dooku claims the Republic is corrupt and tyrannical. Both cannot be fully correct. He stood, pacing the bridge. We will meet this Sith Lord. We will judge his honor for ourselves. And if he proves himself a warrior worthy of respect, Martok's grin returned. Then perhaps this war is more complicated than the Jedi admit. On Ryloth's surface, Master Windu felt a disturbance in the Force, a cold ripple of dark side energy, distant but unmistakable. Dooku had revealed himself, however briefly, and the implications were staggering. He contacted them, Windu said quietly. Dooku is trying to recruit the Klingons. Master Alara's expression was grim. Will they accept? I don't know. Windu deactivated his lightsaber, watching as the Klingon ships regrouped in orbit. Martok respects strength and honor. Dooku can offer both, along with technology and freedom from Republic bureaucracy, everything that would appeal to warriors. Then we need to move fast, Alara said. If the Klingons join the Separatists, the war is over, Windu finished. Their technology would tip the balance irreversibly. He activated his comlink. Commander Cody, secure the area. Master Alara, contact the temple. Tell the council we need an emergency session. He looked up at the Klingon ships, their hulls still radiating heat from battle. We're about to find out if the Force can compete with honor. In the cold void of space, the Klingon Empire held position, neither ally nor enemy, neither Republic nor Separatist. They were a third power, unpredictable and dangerous, and the entire galaxy was about to learn what it meant when warriors who owed allegiance only to honor entered a war built on lies. The Battle of Ryloth was over. But the real war for the Klingon Empire's loyalty had only just begun. The Klingon encampment on Ryloth had transformed overnight from a temporary landing site into a fortified position that would have impressed even Mandalorian architects. Warriors patrolled the perimeter in rotating shifts, disruptor rifles held at ready, their eyes scanning the horizon for threats. Inside the largest tent, constructed from salvaged hull plating and Republic tarpaulins, Martok sat across from Master Windu and Master Alara, a holographic projector displaying a tactical map of the galaxy between them. 20,000 systems, Martok said, studying the glowing representation. Your Republic claims to govern them all? Governs, protects, represents, Alara corrected gently. Each system sends senators to Coruscant, where they vote on legislation and policy. It's democracy on a galactic scale. Martok's expression suggested he'd just tasted something rotten. Democracy. Endless debate while warriors die waiting for politicians to choose action. He gestured at the map. In the Klingon Empire, the High Council decides swiftly. Weakness is not tolerated. Honor guides all decisions. And who determines what's honorable? Windu asked pointedly. In a democracy, the people decide their fate. In your empire, what happens when the Council's definition of honor conflicts with justice? Then the Council is challenged, Martok replied simply. Any warrior may challenge leadership through combat. The strongest lead. The weak follow or die. It is efficient. It's brutal, Alara said. What about scientists, artists, healers? Do they have no voice because they cannot fight? Martok considered this, his scarred face thoughtful. They serve the Empire in their own way. But when war comes, and war always comes, warriors must lead. Your Republic places politicians and mystics in command. We place those who have proven themselves in blood. Before Windu could respond, Commander Cody entered the tent, his expression urgent. Masters, we've received intelligence from Coruscant. Count Dooku has been spotted on Sereno, but that's not the critical part. Our spies report he's arranged a meeting with representatives from Death Watch, the Mandalorian splinter group. Martok stood immediately. Mandalorians, Dooku mentioned them. He said they were warriors of honor. Death Watch is a terrorist organization, Windu said firmly. They reject Mandalore's peaceful government and seek to return to the old ways. Conquest, violence, endless warfare. They're exactly what Mandalore evolved beyond. Evolved beyond war? Martok's tone was dangerous. You speak as if war is a disease to be cured. War is the forge in which civilizations are tested. A culture that abandons warfare abandons its strength. A culture that embraces only warfare abandons its humanity, Alara countered. The Mandalorians nearly destroyed themselves through generations of civil war. Their new government chose peace, prosperity, progress. Is that not strength of a different kind? Martok was silent for a long moment, his single eye distant. Finally he spoke, and his voice was quieter than before. In my youth, I believed as you do, Jedi. I thought endless war was glorious, that peace was for the weak. Then I was captured by the Dominion, enemies from beyond our space. They held me in a prison camp for 2 years. I watched warriors die slowly, without honor, their spirits broken before their bodies failed. He touched the scar over his missing eye. I learned that there is glory in battle, yes, but also in survival, in protecting your people, in knowing when to fight and when to preserve strength. It was the most personal thing Martok had revealed, and both Jedi felt the weight of it. This was not a simple brute. This was a warrior who had suffered, learned, evolved, yet still held to his core beliefs with iron conviction. Then you understand, Windu said carefully, that Dooku's offer is manipulation. He's not offering you alliance. He's offering you a weapon pointed at the Republic. Death Watch would use your presence to legitimize their extremism. They'd parade you as proof that the warrior way is superior, that Mandalore's peaceful government is weak. Perhaps it is, Martok said bluntly. I will meet these Death Watch. I will judge their honor myself. If they are true warriors, I will hear their perspective. If they are terrorists hiding behind warrior rhetoric, his hand moved to his batleth. I will deal with them accordingly. Commander Martok, Alara leaned forward, her leku twitching with urgency. Dooku is manipulating you. He's using your cultural values against you. Can't you see that? I see that everyone in this galaxy seeks to recruit the Klingon Empire, Martok replied. The Republic wants us as soldiers in your war. The Separatists want us as weapons against the Republic. Everyone assumes we cannot think for ourselves, that we are simple brutes to be aimed and unleashed. He stood, his full height imposing in the confined space. The Klingon Empire serves no one. We will forge our own path in this galaxy, and if that path crosses yours, he met Windu's gaze directly. Then we shall see which philosophy prevails, your force or our honor. He strode from the tent, leaving the two Jedi in troubled silence. We're losing him, Alara said quietly. Dooku is offering everything that appeals to Klingon values. Direct action, warrior culture, freedom from bureaucracy. What do we offer? Democracy they don't understand, mysticism they can't sense, and a war we're not winning. Windu's jaw tightened. Then we show them what the Republic truly stands for. Not speeches and Senate committees, but the reason we fight. He activated his comlink. Commander Cody, prepare a transport. We're taking Commander Martok somewhere he needs to see. Where, sir? The lower levels of Coruscant, the refugee sectors, the places where Republic citizens struggle to survive while the war consumes resources above. Windu's expression was resolute. If Martok wants to understand what we're protecting, he needs to see the people, not just the soldiers. Above Ryloth, on the bridge of the Bortas, Martok's communications officer received an encrypted transmission on a frequency they'd never used before. The message was brief, coordinates, and a meeting time, signed with a symbol, the Death's Head Skull of Death Watch. The trap was set, and Martok was walking directly into it. The moon of Concordia hung in space like a scarred fist, a mining world orbiting Mandalore, its surface pockmarked with excavation sites and abandoned facilities. It was here, in a decommissioned Beskar mine that Pre Vizsla awaited his guests. The leader of Death Watch stood in full armor, traditional Mandalorian design painted in the black and crimson of his faction. At his hip hung the Darksaber, an ancient weapon whose black blade hummed with a resonance that seemed to drink in light rather than emit it. Around him, 20 Death Watch warriors held position, their armor decorated with kill markings and clan sigils from Mandalore's violent past. These were not the peaceful new Mandalorians who governed the system. These were warriors who remembered when Mandalore conquered worlds instead of building them. The distinctive sound of a Klingon transporter echoed through the cavern, a technology that still confounded Republic scientists. Martok and 5 of his warriors materialized in a shimmer of energy, their batleths and disruptors marking them as clearly dangerous. Pre Vizsla removed his helmet slowly, revealing a face carved by years of guerrilla warfare and ideological conviction. His eyes assessed the Klingons with the practiced gaze of a career soldier. "Commander Martok," Vizsla's voice carried the weight of Mandalorian pride. "Welcome to Concordia. I am Pre Vizsla, leader of Death Watch. Count Dooku suggested we had much to discuss." Martok's single eye scanned the chamber, noting the warriors' positions, their weapons, the exits. His tactical assessment was immediate and professional. "You are the Mandalorians. Dooku said you were warriors of honor. Prove it." Vizsla's smile was sharp. "Direct. I appreciate that. The new Mandalorians, the cowards who govern our system, would spend an hour on pleasantries and political niceties. Warriors speak plainly." He gestured to the ancient mine around them. "This facility once produced Beskar, Mandalorian iron, the strongest metal in the galaxy. Our ancestors forged armor from it, built a warrior culture that conquered dozens of systems. We were feared, respected, glorious." "Were," Martok noted, past tense. "What happened?" "Peace happened." Vizsla spat the word like a curse. "After generations of civil war, the weak-willed faction gained power. They claimed our warrior ways were barbaric, that Mandalore should become a neutral system focused on commerce and diplomacy. They outlawed our traditions, melted down our weapons, turned warriors into farmers and merchants." His hand moved to the Darksaber. "But some of us remembered. Some of us refused to abandon what made Mandalore great." Martok listened intently. There was something familiar in Vizsla's words. The frustration of a warrior culture forced to adapt to a galaxy that no longer valued pure strength. "The Klingon Empire faced similar challenges," he said slowly. "After our war with the Federation, a democratic alliance much like your republic, we were forced to negotiate, to compromise, to accept that honor sometimes meant choosing peace over glory." His expression darkened. "Many Klingons believed we had grown soft, that we had betrayed our ancestors." "And what do you believe?" Vizsla asked. "I believe," Martok said carefully, "that strength without wisdom is wasted, that glory earned through meaningless slaughter is hollow. But I also believe that a culture which abandons warfare entirely becomes prey for those who do not." He met Vizsla's gaze. "The question is, does Death Watch fight for Mandalore's strength or for your own power?" Vizsla's expression hardened. "We fight to restore Mandalore's honor, to prove that the warrior way is not barbarism, it is survival. This galaxy respects only strength. The Republic is collapsing because it is weak, divided, paralyzed by democracy. The Separatists challenge them because they sense that weakness." He stepped closer. "Count Dooku offers us something the Republic never will, the freedom to be warriors again. And he offers you the same thing, Commander. Alliance with the Confederacy means fighting alongside those who understand honor, not those who fear it." "Dooku fights with machines," Martok countered. "Where is the honor in that? The droids are tools. Vizsla replied, echoing Dooku's earlier argument. Would you condemn a warrior for using a blaster instead of a blade? Technology does not diminish honor. It amplifies our ability to achieve victory. He drew the darksaber, its black blade igniting with a sound like distant thunder. This is the darksaber, forged 1,000 years ago by the only Mandalorian ever accepted into the Jedi Order. It cuts through Beskar, through Durasteel, through any armor in the galaxy. Is it dishonorable because it is technology? Martok studied the weapon with professional interest. The blade's unique properties were unlike anything in Klingon arsenals. A weapon is only as honorable as the warrior who wields it. Show me how Mandalorians fight, Vizsla. Face me in single combat. If you prove yourself worthy, I will consider your words. If you prove yourself a coward hiding behind speeches, Martok drew his batleth. Then I will know Deathwatch's true nature. The Deathwatch warriors tensed, hands moving to weapons. But Vizsla raised a hand, stopping them. His smile returned, this time genuine, almost joyful. Finally, he breathed. Someone who understands. He activated his armor's systems, jetpack priming, wrist-mounted weapons charging. In Mandalorian culture, the darksaber can only be won through combat. Its wielder must prove themselves worthy through strength. I accept your challenge, Commander. Let us see if Klingon honor matches Mandalorian resolve. They circled each other in the ancient mine. Two warriors from cultures built on similar foundations, yet separated by galaxies. Martok held his batleth in the traditional ready stance, his enhanced Klingon physiology giving him raw strength and endurance. Vizsla moved with the practiced efficiency of Mandalorian combat training, his armor providing technological advantages that balanced the physical disparity. Vizsla struck first, his jetpack igniting to propel him upward and behind Martok. The darksaber came down in a vertical slash aimed at the Klingon's exposed back. Martok spun with surprising speed, his batleth catching the darksaber between its curved blades. Energy crackled where the weapons met, ancient Mandalorian technology against Klingon metallurgy. The darksaber cut into the batleth's edge, scoring it but not severing it. Martok twisted his weapon, using leverage to throw Vizsla off balance. The Mandalorian compensated with his jetpack, boosting sideways and firing a dart from his wrist gauntlet. Martok deflected it with his batleth, the dart clattering harmlessly against the cavern wall. You fight with gadgets and tricks, Martok growled, pressing forward. Where is the honor in that? Mandalorians fight to win, Vizsla retorted, activating his flamethrower. A gout of fire erupted from his wrist, forcing Martok to retreat. We use every advantage, every tool, every weapon at our disposal. That is not dishonor, that is tactical superiority. He launched a fiber-cord whip from his other gauntlet, the thin cable wrapping around Martok's batleth and yanking it from his grasp. For a heartbeat, Martok stood disarmed and Vizsla lunged with the darksaber aimed at his chest. Martok caught Vizsla's wrist with both hands, his Klingon strength stopping the blade centimeters from his armor. They stood locked together, straining against each other, the darksaber's black blade humming between them. You are strong, Vizsla admitted through gritted teeth. Stronger than any opponent I've faced. And you are resourceful, Martok replied. More than I expected. With a sudden surge of strength, he twisted Vizsla's arm, forcing the darksaber away, and delivered a devastating headbutt, a classic Klingon move that utilized their ridged foreheads as weapons. The impact rang against Vizsla's helmet, denting the Beskar and sending him staggering backward. His jetpack fired reflexively, carrying him out of immediate range. Blood trickled from his nose, visible beneath his damaged helmet. Vizsla wiped the blood away and laughed, a sound of genuine respect. You fight like a true warrior, Martok. No deception, no hesitation, just pure combat prowess. He deactivated the darksaber and extended his hand. "I declare this match a draw. You have proven yourself worthy of Mandalorian respect." Martok retrieved his batleth, examining the score marks the darksaber had left. "And you have proven that Mandalorians understand warfare beyond simple brutality. Your armor, your weapons, your tactics, all designed to maximize combat effectiveness." He sheathed his blade. "But I must ask, does Death Watch fight for Mandalore's future or its past?" "The past is the foundation of the future," Vizsla said. "We seek to restore what was lost, not to conquer the galaxy, but to ensure Mandalore never becomes prey." "The new Mandalorians believe peace will protect them. They are fools. When the Separatists or Republic decide Mandalore's resources are needed, our neutrality will mean nothing. Only strength prevents exploitation." Martok understood that logic intimately. The Klingon Empire had learned similar lessons across centuries of conflict. "What does Dooku truly want from you? And from me?" Vizsla's expression grew serious. "Dooku wants warriors who can challenge the Republic's clone army and Jedi Order. He offers us weapons, resources, and legitimacy. In exchange, we provide shock troops and special operations capabilities. For you," Vizsla studied Martok carefully, "he wants your technology, your disruptors, your cloaking devices, your transporter systems. Imagine Separatist warships equipped with Klingon weapons. The war would end in months." "With Dooku ruling the galaxy," Martok said flatly, "replacing one empire with another." "Perhaps, but at least his empire would respect strength." Vizsla gestured to his warriors. "The Republic fears us. They label us terrorists because we refuse to abandon our culture. Dooku offers us legitimacy, a place in his new order where warriors are valued, not persecuted." Before Martok could respond, his communicator chirped, an urgent signal from the Bordas. His first officer's voice came through, tense and clipped. "Commander, we are detecting a massive hyperspace signature entering the Mandalore system. Republic fleet, 3 Venator-class star destroyers, and full complement of starfighters. They are hailing us, demanding we surrender for questioning regarding Separatist collaboration." "Commander, they're treating us as enemy combatants." Martok's expression went cold and dangerous. Beside him, Vizsla smiled grimly. "And so the Republic shows its true face," the Mandalorian said quietly. "You saved their forces on Ryloth. You fought alongside their Jedi. And now they come with warships because you dared to speak with those they label enemies. Is this the democracy they champion, the freedom they protect?" Martok stared at his communicator, then at Vizsla, then at the Death Watch warriors watching him with calculating eyes. In that moment, he understood the trap Dooku had laid. Not a trap of force, but of politics, maneuvering the Klingons into a position where the Republic's actions would drive them toward the Separatists. "Tell the Republic fleet," Martok said slowly, his voice like grinding stone, "that the Klingon Empire answers to no one. We are not their subjects, not their prisoners, and not their enemies, unless they choose to make us so." He looked at Vizsla. "And tell them that if they fire on Klingon vessels, they will learn why the Dominion fears our name." Above Concordia, the standoff began. Republic star destroyers on one side, Klingon warships on the other, and Death Watch watching from the moon below. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if first contact would end in alliance or annihilation. The bridge of the Venator-class Star Destroyer Resolute hummed with controlled tension. Jedi General Anakin Skywalker stood before the main viewport, his arms crossed, his expression troubled. Beside him, his Padawan Ahsoka Tano fidgeted with the lightsaber at her belt, sensing her master's internal conflict through their training bond. "Master, are we sure about this?" Ahsoka asked quietly. "These Klingons helped us on Ryloth. Commander Cody said they saved an entire battalion." "I know, Snips," Anakin replied, his voice tight. "But the Council has intelligence suggesting Count Dooku is trying to recruit them." We can't let separatist hands get on that technology. Those disruptors punch through our shields like they're not even there. Admiral Yularen approached from the tactical station, his expression carefully neutral. General Skywalker, the Klingon vessels have not powered weapons or raised shields. They appear to be waiting for us to make the first move, Anakin muttered. He'd fought enough battles to recognize a tactical standoff when he saw one. Hail them again! Open channel! The comm crackled, and Martok's gravelly voice filled the bridge. This is Commander Martok of the IKS Bortus. You have entered this system with warships and threatening demands. Explain yourselves before this becomes a conflict neither of us wants. Anakin stepped forward, his tone carefully diplomatic, a skill he'd never quite mastered. Commander Martok, I'm Jedi General Anakin Skywalker. We're not here to threaten you. We need to talk about your meeting with Death Watch. I speak with whoever I choose, Martok replied coldly. The Klingon Empire does not require Republic permission to conduct diplomacy. Death Watch isn't a legitimate government, Anakin argued. They're terrorists who've killed innocent civilians. By meeting with them, I am evaluating all factions in this galaxy, Martok interrupted. The Republic sent their Jedi to test me in combat. The Separatists sent their leader to make offers. The Mandalorians sent warriors to speak with a warrior. I do not blindly accept anyone's propaganda. I judge for myself. Ahsoka leaned closer to Anakin. He's got a point, Master. We're kind of surrounding him with capital ships while telling him he's free. Anakin shot her a look, but couldn't argue the logic. The optics were terrible. They'd shown up like conquerors demanding submission. He tried a different approach. Commander, I understand you're new to this galaxy, but you need to understand what's at stake. The Separatists aren't fighting for freedom. They're being manipulated by a Sith Lord. Count Dooku is using them, using their legitimate grievances to tear the galaxy apart. If you ally with him, Martok's voice carried dark amusement. You assume I will ally with someone. Perhaps the Klingon Empire will ally with no one. Perhaps we will carve our own territory and tell both your factions to stay away. That scenario had kept the Jedi Council awake for the past 2 days. A third faction, powerful and unpredictable, operating independently in the Outer Rim, it could destabilize the entire war effort. Before Anakin could respond, a new voice cut through the comm, smooth, cultured, and carrying the weight of absolute confidence. General Skywalker, how predictable. The moment someone questions Republic authority, you arrive with warships. Count Dooku's hologram materialized on the Resolute's bridge, life-sized and imposing. The Sith Lord wore his characteristic curved hilt lightsaber at his side, his silver beard and aristocratic features projecting an image of refined power. Behind him, the bridge of a separatist Providence-class destroyer was visible. Dooku! Anakin's hand moved instinctively to his lightsaber. What are you doing here? Preventing a diplomatic incident, Dooku replied calmly. Commander Martok, I hope the Republic's aggressive posture has helped clarify which faction truly respects sovereignty. He turned his attention to the Klingon frequency, which was apparently now a three-way communication. I have come to fulfill my promise, to face you in single combat, as a warrior, not a politician hiding behind armies. Martok's interest was audible. You would duel me? A Sith Lord against a Klingon commander? I would show you what the dark side of the Force can accomplish, Dooku corrected, and perhaps demonstrate that the Republic's claims of moral superiority are built on foundations of fear and control. No, Anakin said sharply. Dooku, you're not turning this into a recruiting opportunity. Commander Martok, don't trust him, he's manipulating you. Everyone manipulates, General Skywalker, Martok replied. The question is, who manipulates with honor, and who manipulates with deception? Count Dooku offered me single combat days ago. I accepted. He has now arrived to fulfill that promise. while you arrived with 3 warships to threaten me. Which of you acts with honor?" Anakin felt the situation slipping through his fingers like sand. Master Windu had warned him that Klingon culture valued direct action over political maneuvering, but he hadn't truly understood what that meant until now. The Republic's democratic processes, which seemed obviously superior to him, appeared to Klingons like weakness and indecision. "Fine," Anakin said, making a decision that would probably earn him a council reprimand. "If you want to see Jedi face a Sith, I'll fight Dooku myself. Right here, right now, in front of your fleet. You can judge for yourself what the Force means." "Anakin, no!" Ahsoka grabbed his arm. "The Council didn't authorize—" "The Council isn't here, Snips." Anakin pulled away gently. "But we are. And if the Klingons respect strength and direct action, we'll show them exactly what the Jedi stand for." Dooku's hologram smiled, a cold expression that held no warmth. "How very rash of you, Skywalker." "Very well. I propose neutral ground. The surface of Concordia, where Pre Vizsla can serve as witness. 3 combats, Jedi versus Sith, Mandalorian versus Klingon, and 1 final surprise that I think will prove educational." "What surprise?" Anakin demanded. "Patience, young Skywalker. You'll see soon enough." Dooku's hologram flickered. "Commander Martok, will you accept these terms? 3 duels to demonstrate the galaxy's true power structures?" Martok was silent for a long moment. His tactical officer was feeding him data. Republic forces holding position, Separatist fleet emerging from hyperspace at the system's edge, Death Watch vessels launching from Concordia to establish a perimeter. The stage was being set for something far more significant than simple combat. "I accept," Martok finally said. "But I add one condition. No interference. Each duel proceeds until victory, yield, or death. No reinforcements, no rescue missions, no political interruptions. Warriors settling matters as warriors should." "Agreed," Dooku said immediately. Anakin hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed. But Dooku, when I beat you, the Klingons witness what happens to Sith who prey on the innocent." "And when I defeat you, young Skywalker," Dooku replied softly, "they will see what happens to Jedi who believe their mysticism makes them invincible." The holograms cut out, leaving Anakin standing on the Resolute's bridge with a very worried Padawan and a very disapproving Admiral. "General," Yularen said carefully, "the Council is going to have questions about your decision to accept a Sith Lord's challenge." "Let them question," Anakin replied, already heading toward the hangar. "We're not losing the Klingons because we were too cautious to show them what we stand for. Ahsoka, prep my starfighter. Admiral, maintain position, but do not engage unless fired upon." He paused at the blast doors. "And contact Master Kenobi. If this goes badly, someone needs to know what happened here." On Concordia's surface, Pre Vizsla watched 3 separate fleets establish positions above his moon: Republic, Separatist, and Klingon. Death Watch warriors prepared a makeshift arena in the largest excavation pit, a natural amphitheater where Mandalorian history had been written in Beskar and blood. "This is better than I hoped," Vizsla murmured to his second-in-command. "When Dooku wins, the Klingons will see Separatist strength. When the Jedi lose, they'll see Republic weakness. Either way, Death Watch emerges as the power brokers, the faction that brokered this historic confrontation." "And if the Jedi wins?" his second asked. Vizsla's smile was sharp. "Then we adapt. But Count Dooku doesn't lose, Lieutenant. He's a Sith Lord, a master of lightsaber combat and the dark side. Skywalker is powerful, yes, but young, reckless, emotional. Dooku will exploit that." He donned his helmet. "Prepare our forces. Whatever happens in that arena, Death Watch will be remembered as the faction that understood what the Klingons value: strength, honor, and the courage to face enemies directly." Martok descended to Concordia's surface with 10 of his finest warriors. They stood at the arena's edge, observers to a conflict that would help determine the Klingon Empire's path in this galaxy. Beside him, his first officer spoke quietly. "Commander, are we certain this is wise? We are taking sides simply by witnessing." "No," Martok replied. "We are gathering intelligence. Dooku speaks of power and freedom. The Jedi speak of justice and democracy. Both claim moral authority, but actions reveal truth, not words." He gestured to the arena. "Here, we will see these philosophies tested. Here, we will learn who fights with honor and who fights with deception. Then, and only then, will the Klingon Empire choose its path." The combatants arrived in separate transports. Anakin Skywalker, his robes billowing in Concordia's thin wind, his blue lightsaber already in hand. Count Dooku, descending his shuttle's ramp with aristocratic grace, his curved lightsaber elegant at his side. They approached the arena from opposite directions, their eyes locked, the weight of galactic war settling on their shoulders. Above them, 3 fleets waited. Around them, warriors from 3 cultures watched. Between them, the Force itself seemed to hold its breath. This was no longer just about the Klingons. This was about the soul of the war itself. Whether it would be won through hope and democracy or power and domination, the duel that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin. The excavation pit's floor was ancient Concordia bedrock, gray, unforgiving, and scarred by centuries of mining. Anakin Skywalker stood at one end, his blue lightsaber humming with controlled plasma energy. At the opposite end, Count Dooku waited with his curved hilt blade ignited, its crimson glow painting his aristocratic features in blood-colored light. Between them, Previsla raised his hand. "Combatants ready? By Mandalorian tradition, this duel proceeds until surrender or death. There will be no interference, no mercy, no retreat." He looked to each warrior in turn, receiving acknowledgement, then lowered his hand sharply. "Begin!" Anakin exploded forward with Force-enhanced speed, closing the distance in heartbeats. His opening strike was pure gem-so, aggressive, powerful, designed to overwhelm through superior strength. The blue blade came down in a devastating overhead chop aimed at Dooku's shoulder. Dooku sidestepped with minimal movement, his blade deflecting Anakin's strike with precise economy. "Still so aggressive, young Skywalker? Have you learned nothing since our last encounter?" Anakin spun, following with a horizontal slash. "I've learned that you talk too much." Their blades met in a cascade of sparks. Lightsaber combat was poetry to those who understood it. Each form, each technique, each philosophy expressed through movement and the Force. Anakin fought with barely controlled fury, his strikes heavy and relentless. Dooku fought with centuries of refinement, his Makashi style designed specifically for lightsaber dueling. From the arena's edge, Martok watched with intense focus. He couldn't sense the Force that remained invisible to Klingon perception, but he could read combat with a warrior's eye. The young Jedi was strong, fast, passionate. The Sith was controlled, efficient, conserving energy. "The young one fights with emotion," Martok said quietly to his first officer. "The elder fights with discipline. It reminds me of the difference between a new warrior seeking glory and a veteran seeking victory." On the Resolute's bridge, Ahsoka Tano watched through remote sensors, her hands clenched into fists. "Come on, Master," she whispered. "Show them what you can do." Anakin pressed his advantage, driving Dooku backward with a flurry of strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But Dooku wasn't most opponents. The Sith Lord's blade moved with surgical precision, deflecting each strike by millimeters, never expending more energy than necessary. "You've improved," Dooku admitted, his blade locking against Anakin's. "Your power has grown, but power without control is wasted potential." He disengaged and thrust forward, his blade aimed at Anakin's heart. Anakin twisted away, the crimson blade singing past his ribs. He reached out with the Force, telekinetically grabbing chunks of excavation debris and hurling them at Dooku. The Sith Lord raised his free hand, stopping the projectiles mid-flight, then redirecting them back at Anakin with casual ease. Anakin shattered the debris with his lightsaber, rock fragments exploding in all directions. Through the dust cloud, he charged again, his attacks becoming more aggressive, more desperate. He could feel the dark side lurking at the edges of his consciousness, that seductive whisper that promised power if he would just let go, just embrace his anger. Dooku sensed it too. "Yes," he breathed. "I feel your anger, your fear, the attachment you desperately hide from the Council." His blade danced past Anakin's defense, scoring a glancing blow across his shoulder. "The Jedi teach you to suppress these emotions. The Sith teach us to weaponize them." "I'm nothing like you!" Anakin roared, his strikes becoming wild. "No!" Dooku's voice was silk over steel. "Then why do I sense such rage in you? Such fear of loss?" He pressed forward, his elegant technique giving way to sudden, overwhelming aggression. "The Jedi would cast you out if they knew what you truly felt. But the dark side offers freedom. Freedom to feel, to love, to protect what matters." "Shut up!" Anakin's control shattered. His strikes became a storm of blue energy, each one fueled by anger, fear, and desperate determination. For a moment, he actually drove Dooku back, the Sith Lord's defense narrowing as he absorbed the assault. But Dooku was baiting him, drawing out his anger, letting him exhaust himself. When Anakin overextended on a powerful thrust, Dooku struck. His crimson blade deflected Anakin's attack, then came around in a precise arc that severed Anakin's lightsaber hand at the wrist. Anakin's scream echoed across Concordia. His lightsaber and his hand fell to the bedrock. He collapsed to his knees, clutching the cauterized stump, his face twisted in agony. Dooku stood over him, lightsaber raised for the killing blow. Around the arena, Klingon warriors leaned forward, recognizing the moment of victory. On the Resolute, Ahsoka's cry of "No!" rang through the bridge as she saw her master defeated. "You fought with passion," Dooku said quietly. "But passion without discipline is merely rage, and rage is a tool, Skywalker, not a philosophy." He raised his blade. "Your death will serve as demonstration. The Jedi's way is not the only way, perhaps not even the best way." "Dooku!" A new voice cut across the arena, Master Obi-Wan Kenobi descending from a Republic gunship with his lightsaber ignited. "The duel is over. You've won. Leave him." "Interference," Dooku said coldly. "How predictable. Even in defeat, the Jedi cannot accept the rules they agreed to." "I agreed to no interference," Previsla's voice boomed. "This duel was to the death or surrender. Master Kenobi, stand down or be removed." Martok watched this development with disgust. The Jedi cannot even honor their own agreements. When their champion falls, they rush to save him rather than accept defeat. He looked at Vizsla. "Is this the Republic's honor?" Before anyone could respond, Dooku lowered his blade. "Actually, I will spare him. Not out of mercy, but because Skywalker's survival serves my purposes better than his death." He looked directly at Martok. "Commander, you've now witnessed Jedi honor. They agreed to your terms, then broke them the moment circumstances turned against them. Remember this when they speak of democracy and justice." Dooku deactivated his lightsaber and walked calmly toward his shuttle, leaving Anakin kneeling in the dust, cradling his severed hand. Kenobi rushed to his side, calling for medical transports. His face, a mask of controlled grief and anger. Martok turned to his warriors. "Return to the Bortus. We have seen enough." "Commander," his first officer ventured, "the Jedi broke their word, yes. But Dooku showed mercy when he could have killed. Is that not also a form of honor?" "Dooku showed strategy, not honor," Martok corrected. He spared Skywalker to humiliate the Jedi, not because of compassion. Both sides manipulate. Both sides deceive. His expression darkened. But the Jedi claim moral superiority while breaking oaths. At least Dooku is honest about his ruthlessness. On the Bortus Bridge, Martok sat in his command chair, his mind processing everything he'd witnessed. The duel itself had been instructive. Both combatants fought with skill, but Dooku's discipline had triumphed over Anakin's passion. More importantly, the aftermath revealed the true nature of each faction. The Republic, despite its claims of democratic values and honor, had violated their agreement the moment their champion faced death. The Separatists, despite their brutal reputation, had honored the duel's terms. It was a calculated move by Dooku, yes, but it accomplished its purpose. The Klingons now questioned which faction truly valued honor. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission. It's Chancellor Palpatine himself, the leader of the Republic." Martok's eye narrowed. "Put him through." The hologram that materialized was that of an elderly human, kindly-looking with gentle eyes and a grandfatherly demeanor. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine projected an aura of wisdom and compassion that immediately set Martok's instincts on edge. He'd known too many politicians who wore kind faces while plotting brutal strategies. "Commander Martok," Palpatine's voice was warm, sympathetic. "I wanted to personally apologize for Master Kenobi's interference. He acted out of attachment to his former apprentice, not according to Jedi teaching. I assure you, the Republic values its agreements." "Yet your Jedi broke his word," Martok replied bluntly. "In Klingon culture, a warrior who violates an oath loses all honor. Is it different in the Republic?" "The Jedi are not the Republic," Palpatine said carefully. "They serve the Republic, yes, but they have their own code, their own complications, attachments they claim to reject but secretly harbor." His expression grew grave. "I fear the Jedi Order has grown rigid, Commander. They claim to serve democracy but often act according to their own interpretations of the Force." Martok studied this Chancellor with renewed interest. Here was a politician criticizing his own military commanders, a dangerous move that suggested either honesty or sophisticated manipulation. "You speak against those who serve you?" Martok asked. "I speak truth," Palpatine replied. "The Republic is at war, Commander Martok. We face an existential crisis. If the Jedi's pride or the Separatists' ambitions tear us apart, billions will suffer. I would rather acknowledge our flaws and seek to correct them than pretend perfection while the galaxy burns." He leaned forward. "I understand Count Dooku has been courting your alliance. I won't insult you by claiming we're morally superior. Today's events prove otherwise. But I will offer you something Dooku cannot: genuine partnership. Not as subjects, not as tools, but as equals." "Dooku offers the same," Martok pointed out. "Dooku offers what serves Dooku," Palpatine countered. "The moment your interests diverge from his, you'll see his true nature. I offer transparency. Help us defeat the Separatists, and the Republic will provide hyperspace technology, territory in the Outer Rim, and formal recognition of the Klingon Empire as a sovereign power. We will not interfere in your governance, your culture, or your expansion, provided you don't threaten Republic systems." It was a compelling offer, more compelling than Dooku's vague promises of glory and freedom. Martok was a warrior, but he was also a commander responsible for his crew's survival. They were stranded in an unknown galaxy. They needed allies, resources, and room to establish themselves. "I will consider your offer, Chancellor. But understand, the Klingon Empire does not serve. We ally as equals, or we stand alone." "Of course." Palpatine's smile was understanding. "Take your time, Commander. The Republic is patient, but please remember, every day you delay is another day the Separatists grow stronger. Another day that Count Dooku manipulates this galaxy toward his vision of order? He paused meaningfully. A vision that has no room for independent warrior cultures like yours. The transmission ended, leaving Martok in troubled silence. His tactical officer spoke carefully. "Commander, we are being maneuvered. Both sides seek to recruit us, to use us. Perhaps we should reject both and chart our own course." "With what?" Martok gestured to the view screen showing the surrounding space. "We have 4 ships, limited resources, and no ability to travel between star systems without technology we don't possess. We must ally with someone, at least temporarily." He stood, pacing the bridge. "The question is, which faction's lies are less toxic?" Above Concordia, 3 fleets remained in tense standoff. On the moon's surface, Previsla smiled beneath his helmet, pleased with how events had unfolded. And in the shadows of Coruscant, hidden deep within the Senate building, Darth Sidious allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Klingons were exactly where he needed them. Powerful enough to be useful, confused enough to be manipulated, and proud enough to resist obvious control. Whether they joined the Republic or the Separatists didn't matter. Either way, they would serve his ultimate plan. The war was accelerating toward its inevitable conclusion, and the Klingon Empire, for all their honor and warrior pride, would play their part in the galaxy's transformation. They just didn't know it yet. The Klingon fleet held position in the void between Concordia and Mandalore, their ships dark and silent as Martok wrestled with a decision that would define his people's future in this galaxy. For 3 days, they had received transmissions from both sides, Republic intelligence reports detailing Separatist atrocities, Separatist evidence of Republic corruption and incompetence. Each faction painted the other as the galaxy's greatest threat, and both claimed the moral high ground. Martok stood alone in his quarters, staring at the curved blade of his bat'leth mounted on the wall. In Klingon culture, when a warrior faced an impossible choice, they consulted their ancestors, not through mysticism, but through the warrior's code itself. What would bring honor? What would ensure the Empire's survival? What would future generations remember? A chime at his door interrupted his meditation. "Enter." His first officer stepped inside, carrying a data tablet. "Commander, you need to see this. Our long-range sensors detected unusual energy signatures in the Coruscant system. We've been analyzing the data and..." He hesitated. "Commander, there's something very wrong with the Republic." Martok took the tablet, studying the sensor readings. His science officer had managed to adapt their technology to detect certain energy patterns in this galaxy, and what they'd found was disturbing. Massive power fluctuations centered on the Senate building. Communications that were encrypted beyond normal government security levels. And strangest of all, occasional energy signatures that matched Count Dooku's presence, originating from within the Republic's own capital. "Explain," Martok demanded. "We believe Count Dooku has been on Coruscant multiple times during the war, not as an invader, but as someone with access to the highest levels of Republic government." His first officer's expression was grim. "Commander, what if this war is not what it appears? What if both sides are being manipulated by a single faction?" Martok's warrior instincts had been whispering this possibility for days, but he'd dismissed it as paranoia. Now, confronted with evidence, the pieces fell into place with horrifying clarity. The war that seemed to have no clear objective. The battles that advanced neither side decisively. The way both Republic and Separatists appeared to be fighting at cross purposes, yet never quite destroying each other. "The Jedi mentioned the Sith," Martok said slowly. "Ancient enemies who work from shadows. If the Sith control both sides, then we are choosing between 2 faces of the same enemy," his first officer finished. "And any alliance we make serves their plan, not ours." Martok felt rage building, not the hot anger of combat, but the cold fury of a warrior who had been played for a fool. He had prided himself on judging each faction independently, on seeing through their propaganda. But he'd never considered that the entire conflict might be orchestrated. "Recall all away teams," Martok ordered. "Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We are leaving this system." "Destination, Commander?" "Unknown space. We will chart our own course, find uninhabited systems, and establish Klingon territory independent of this manipulated war." Martok's hand moved to his Daktog blade. "And then we will investigate this conspiracy. If the Sith are orchestrating galactic genocide for their own purposes, the Klingon Empire will hunt them down. Not for the Republic, not for the Separatists, for honor." Before his first officer could acknowledge the order, alarms screamed across the Bortus. The view screen activated automatically, showing a massive fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Republic Star destroyers, Separatist Providence-class vessels, and even Deathwatch cruisers. They formed a blockade around the Klingon position, weapons hot, shields raised. Chancellor Palpatine's hologram materialized on the bridge, but his kindly demeanor had evaporated. His expression was cold, calculating, almost reptilian. "Commander Martok," Palpatine's voice carried none of its previous warmth. "I'm afraid I cannot allow you to leave. You've seen too much, learned too much. Your sensor technology has proven inconveniently sophisticated." Martok's eye widened in realization. You are the Sith Lord controlling both sides." "I am Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith," Palpatine replied with chilling calm. "And you, Commander, have become a problem. I offered you partnership, territory, respect, but you insisted on investigating, on questioning, on remaining independent." His expression twisted into something monstrous. "The Klingon Empire is powerful, yes, but not powerful enough to stand against the combined might of every faction in this galaxy. Surrender your vessels, your technology, and your warriors, or watch your fleet burn." Around the Bortus, dozens of capital ships powered weapons, Republic Venators and Separatist Providences, traditional enemies now working in perfect coordination. The blockade was seamless. No escape route, no weaknesses, just overwhelming firepower pointed at 4 Klingon vessels. Martok's bridge crew looked to him, waiting for orders. They were warriors who had accepted death the moment they passed through the anomaly. But this, being forced to surrender to a manipulator, a coward who orchestrated war from shadows, this was dishonorable beyond measure. "No," Martok said quietly. Then louder, "No, the Klingon Empire does not surrender to tyrants and cowards." He turned to his crew. "All hands to battle stations, raise shields, charge all weapons. If we die today, we die as warriors, and we take this Sith's fleet with us." His warriors roared their approval. "Kapla!" And the Bortus powered weapon systems that hadn't been fully charged since arriving in this galaxy. Around them, the 3 birds of prey activated cloaking devices, vanishing from sensors. The Vorcha-class cruiser moved into defensive formation, its disruptor arrays glowing with deadly green energy. "Fire!" Martok commanded. The Klingon fleet unleashed everything. Disruptor beams lanced out in all directions, targeting the closest capital ships. Photon torpedoes streaked through space in brilliant arcs of matter-antimatter annihilation. The birds of prey, invisible and deadly, appeared just long enough to fire devastating salvos before cloaking again. A Republic Venator took a disruptor barrage amidships and died in spectacular fashion, its reactor breaching and consuming the entire vessel. A Separatist Providence lost its entire port side to photon torpedoes, spinning out of control as secondary explosions rippled through its hull. A Deathwatch cruiser simply disintegrated when 3 disruptor beams converged on its bridge, but there were too many. For every ship the Klingons destroyed, 5 more closed in. Turbo laser fire hammered the Bortus's shields, draining them rapidly. The Vorcha-class cruiser took a direct hit from multiple Republic Star Destroyers, its shields collapsing and hull armor buckling under sustained assault. "Shields at 20%!" the tactical officer shouted over the chaos of battle. "Hull breaches on deck 7 and 12! We cannot sustain this!" Martok gripped his command chair as the Bortas shuddered under another barrage. Around him, his bridge crew fought with desperate efficiency, warriors facing impossible odds with courage and skill. This was how Klingons died, fighting, defiant to the last breath. Then, through the view screen, Martok saw something impossible. A massive spatial rift was opening behind the enemy fleet. The same type of anomaly that had brought them to this galaxy. But this one was larger, more stable, and through it came ships, Klingon ships. Dozens of them, birds of prey, Vorcha-class cruisers, even a Negavar-class warship, the pride of the Klingon Defense Force. The cavalry had arrived. High Chancellor Gowron's face appeared on every Klingon view screen, his wild eyes gleaming with battle lust. "Martok, we received your distress beacon through the anomaly. The Empire does not abandon its warriors." His voice became a roar. "All ships, attack! For the Empire! For glory! Today is a good day to die!" The Klingon reinforcements slammed into the blockade like a meteor storm. Suddenly, Palpatine's carefully orchestrated trap became a chaotic battlefield. Klingon warships fought with the fury of a culture that had perfected warfare across centuries, their disruptors and torpedoes tearing through shields designed to resist Republic and Separatist weapons. The balance of power shifted in seconds. Republic Star Destroyers tried to coordinate defensive fire, but found themselves unable to target cloaked birds of prey that appeared, fired, and vanished. Separatist Providence-class vessels, designed for overwhelming frontal assaults, couldn't adapt to three-dimensional combat against opponents who refused to hold position. Deathwatch cruisers simply fled. Pre Vizsla had no interest in dying for Palpatine's schemes. On Coruscant, in the Senate chamber, Darth Sidious watched his perfect trap unravel. The Klingons had somehow called reinforcements through the anomaly. Technology he didn't understand, couldn't control. His fleet was being decimated by warriors who fought without fear, without hesitation, without the complications of force-based precognition. "Withdraw all forces," Sidious commanded coldly. "This battle is lost, but the war—" His yellow eyes gleamed with Sith malevolence. "The war continues." The Republic and Separatist vessels broke formation and retreated into hyperspace, leaving behind debris, fires, and the corpses of thousands. The Klingon fleet regrouped, battered but victorious, their hulls scarred, but their spirits unbroken. Martok stood on his bridge, watching the enemy flee, feeling something he hadn't felt since arriving in this galaxy. Hope. "Open a channel to all Klingon vessels," he ordered. "This is Commander Martok. Today, we learned the truth about this galaxy's war. It is not Republic versus Separatists. It is the Sith, manipulating both sides, orchestrating genocide for their own power. We were brought here by fate or chance, but we remain by choice." He raised his bat'leth high. "The Klingon Empire claims this sector of space as our territory. Any who challenge us will face the same fate as those who fled today. And to the Sith Lord hiding in the shadows, we are coming for you. The hunt has begun." Across the fleet, Klingon warriors roared their approval. They had found their purpose in this galaxy, not as pawns in someone else's war, but as hunters pursuing the greatest predator this galaxy had ever known. The game had changed. The Sith's perfect plan now had a variable he couldn't control. Warriors who existed outside the Force, who couldn't be manipulated through fear or prophecy, who valued honor above survival. Darth Sidious had made a critical mistake. He'd revealed himself too early, shown his hand before securing the Klingon fleet. Now, they knew. And knowledge, as any Sith understood, was the most dangerous weapon of all. The Outer Rim had always been lawless territory, too far from Coruscant's authority, too rebellious for separatist control, too wild for anyone to truly govern. But in the months following the Battle of Concordia, a new power emerged from the chaos. The Klingon Empire, reinforced by dozens of warships from their home galaxy, carved out a territory spanning 7 systems. They called it the Klingon Sector. On the bridge of the IKS Bortas, now flagship of a growing fleet, Martok reviewed intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. His warriors had been busy. Separatist droid factories in 3 systems, destroyed. Republic listening posts that monitored their territory, disabled and warned away. Pirate raiders who thought Klingons would be easy prey. Their wreckage now served as navigation warnings. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Coruscant. It's Master Yoda of the Jedi Council." Martok's eye narrowed. He hadn't spoken with the Jedi since Concordia, since learning of Palpatine's true nature. "Put him through." The ancient Jedi Master's hologram materialized, small but radiating presence that even Klingons could sense. Not through the Force, but through sheer weight of lived experience. "Commander Martok," Yoda's voice was grave. "Speak with you I must. About the Sith Lord you discovered." "Darth Sidious," Martok replied. "Your Chancellor Palpatine, the one controlling both sides of your war." "Suspected this?" "We did," Yoda admitted, his ears lowering. "But proof we lacked. Your sensor technology, outside the Force, it operates. Saw what we could not." The ancient master's expression was troubled. "Share this intelligence with the Council, you must. Expose Palpatine before his plan reaches completion." "Why should we?" Martok asked bluntly. "The Jedi had decades to discover this truth. You failed. Your entire war is orchestrated genocide, and you march your clone soldiers to death without questioning the conflict itself." He leaned forward. "The Klingon Empire owes the Republic nothing. We will hunt Sidious in our own way by our own code." "Alone, defeat him you cannot," Yoda warned. "Powerful beyond measure, Darth Sidious is. The dark side clouds everything. Without allies, overwhelmed you will be." "Then the Jedi should have thought about allies before breaking their word at Concordia," Martok shot back, "before trying to dictate terms to sovereign warriors. Before treating us like tools to be recruited rather than equals to be respected." Yoda was silent for a long moment, his ancient eyes studying the Klingon commander. When he spoke again, his voice carried genuine remorse. "Right, you are. Failed you, we did. Failed ourselves, the Jedi have. Arrogant we became, certain that the Force would reveal all truths, guide all actions." His ears lifted slightly. "But a lesson you have taught us. That truth exists beyond the Force. That honor exists beyond mysticism. That warriors can be wise and wisdom can be found in warriors." It was the closest thing to an apology Martok had ever received from a Jedi. He respected that. The ability to acknowledge failure took courage, something he'd begun to believe the Jedi lacked. "What do you propose, Master Yoda?" "Alliance, I propose. Not Republic control over Klingons, not Jedi authority over warriors, but partnership between 2 cultures who fight tyranny, each in their own way." Yoda's expression grew fierce. "Sidious believes himself invincible, believes his plan inevitable. Show him wrong. We must. Together." Martok considered this carefully. His warriors had secured their territory, established independence, and proven their strength. But Yoda was right. Sidious controlled vast resources, countless systems and armies numbering in the billions. The Klingon Empire, for all their prowess, numbered perhaps 5,000 warriors and 40 ships in this galaxy. "I will consider your proposal," Martok said finally. "But know this, Master Yoda, the Klingon Empire does not fight your war. We fight our war, against the Sith, against manipulation, against any who would reduce warriors to pawns. If our objectives align with the Jedi, we may fight alongside you, but we will never fight beneath you." "Acceptable this is," Yoda replied. "More than we deserve, perhaps, but enough to begin rebuilding trust." His hologram flickered. "One more thing, Commander. Warn you, I must. Sidious knows of your presence now, knows your technology threatens his plans. He will come for you, with everything he commands. Prepared, you must be." "Let him come." Martok's grin was feral. "The Klingon Empire has faced Borg, Dominion, and enemies whose names would mean nothing to you. We have survived because we are warriors, not through destiny or prophecy, but through strength, courage, and honor. If Sidious wants to test himself against that," Martok hefted his batleth, "he will learn that some prey bites back." The transmission ended. Around the bridge, Martok's crew awaited orders. They had followed him through the anomaly, through battles against impossible odds, through the political quagmire of galactic war. They trusted him to lead them to glory or death, preferably both. "Helm, set course for the Rishi Maze," Martok ordered. "Intelligence suggests Sidious has a facility there, something called Camino, where the clone army was created. We will investigate. If we find evidence of Sith manipulation, we will destroy it." "Commander," his first officer cautioned, "Camino is heavily defended. Republic forces will consider it an act of war. Then they will learn that the Klingon Empire does not ask permission to hunt tyrants," Martok replied. "The clone army was created to serve Sidious's plan. Every clone soldier who dies in this war dies furthering Sith goals. If we can expose that truth, perhaps some of those warriors will choose honor over programming." The Bortas turned toward the galactic edge, where Camino waited, a water world wrapped in storms, birthplace of an army that knew nothing of the chains binding them. Behind Martok's fleet, the Klingon sector stood as proof that independent powers could exist in this galaxy, that the Republic and Separatists were not the only options. In the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda meditated on the conversation. The Klingons represented something the Force had never shown him. Warriors existing outside its influence, making choices based on honor rather than destiny. They were unpredictable, aggressive, often brutal, but they were also honest in their brutality, transparent in their values. Perhaps that was what the galaxy needed. Not more mysticism, but more clarity. Not more manipulation, but more honor. "Master Yoda," Mace Windu entered the meditation chamber, his replacement hand still adjusting to his neural interface. The injury at Concordia had been both humbling and educational. "The Council has received word. Martok's fleet is moving toward Camino. If he attacks the cloning facility, let him," Yoda interrupted. "Faith in the Force we have always had. Faith in warriors who exist outside it we have not. Time to learn it is. Time to trust that honor and the Force, though different paths, may lead to the same destination." Windu absorbed this with visible surprise. Master Yoda, suggesting they trust non-Force sensitives to make critical decisions, it went against everything the Jedi had believed for millennia. "The galaxy is changing, Mace," Yoda continued quietly. "Change with it we must, or become relics we will, artifacts of an age that no longer exists." On Coruscant, in the deepest sub-levels of the Senate building, Darth Sidious meditated in a chamber of pure darkness. Before him, a holocron pulsed with ancient Sith knowledge, prophecies, techniques, contingencies. He had planned for every variable, every possibility. The Chosen One was broken and spiraling toward the dark side. The Jedi were blind and arrogant. The clone army was ready for Order 66. The galaxy was his to reshape, except for the Klingons. They were the one variable his visions had not shown, the Force had not predicted, his plans had not accounted for. Warriors who existed outside the cosmic tapestry he'd spent decades weaving. They couldn't be corrupted through the dark side. They had no Force connection to twist. They couldn't be intimidated. Their culture celebrated death in battle. They couldn't be manipulated. Their honor code was absolute. Darth Tyrannus, Sidious spoke into the darkness, and Count Dooku's hologram appeared. The Klingon fleet moves toward Kamino. They must be stopped. Not defeated, that would make martyrs of them, but delayed, contained, maneuvered away from critical facilities. My lord, Dooku bowed, his elegant features hiding doubts he dared not voice. The Klingons have proven difficult to predict. Their technology, their tactics, their very philosophy operates outside our understanding. Perhaps we should consider negotiation rather than confrontation. There is no negotiation with those who reject the very concept of manipulation, Sidious replied coldly, but you are correct that direct confrontation is inadvisable. Instead, we will use their honor against them. The Klingons value warriors, glory, single combat. Give them a target worthy of their attention, someone they will pursue across the galaxy, away from our critical facilities. Who, my lord? Sidious's smile was terrible to behold. General Grievous, a warrior who has killed dozens of Jedi, who collects lightsabers as trophies, who embodies combat prowess. The Klingons will see him as the ultimate prey, a challenge worthy of their skills. While they hunt the general, we will proceed with our plans unimpeded. Dooku hesitated, then bowed again. As you wish, my lord. The hologram vanished, leaving Sidious alone with his thoughts. The Klingons were dangerous, yes, but even the most dangerous predator could be led astray by sufficiently tempting prey. And if Grievous died in the process, the cyborg general had served his purpose. The Separatist leadership was expendable. They always had been. Everything was expendable except the plan, except the empire he would build on the galaxy's ashes, except his eternal rule, purchased with the blood of trillions. The Klingons thought they were hunters. They would soon learn they were prey in a game beyond their comprehension. Above Kamino, the Klingon fleet dropped out of warp, their sensors immediately detecting the Republic garrison protecting the planet. Kaminoan cloning facilities stretched across the water-world's surface, factories of flesh that produced 3 million clone warriors to fight and die in a war they didn't understand. Martok studied the tactical display with his one good eye. 20 Republic cruisers, hundreds of starfighters, and orbital defense platforms. Attacking directly would cost lives, both Klingon and clone. And despite their programming, clone troopers were warriors who deserved better than dying as pawns. "Hail the facility," Martok ordered. "I will speak with whoever commands this place." A hologram appeared, a tall, elegant Kaminoan with the species' characteristic long neck and large eyes. "I am Lama Su, Prime Minister of Kamino. You are in violation of Republic space. Withdraw immediately or face defensive action. I am Commander Martok of the Klingon Empire. I have not come to attack your facility. I have come to deliver a message to the clone army you created." Martok stood, his full presence commanding the transmission. "Your soldiers were commissioned by a Sith Lord. They fight in a war orchestrated to destroy the Jedi and establish tyranny. They are warriors being used as slaves." Lama Su's expression remained neutral. "The clone army serves the Republic as contracted. Their loyalty is ensured through behavioral modification and inhibitor chips." "Inhibitor chips?" Martok's voice dropped to dangerous quiet. "You have enslaved warriors through technology, removed their free will? We have ensured they fulfill their purpose," Lama Su corrected clinically. "They are products, Commander, not individuals." The rage that filled Martok was colder and more dangerous than any he'd felt before. These Kaminoans spoke of warriors, living, breathing, courageous beings as products, as things to be manufactured, programmed, and controlled. It violated every principle the Klingon Empire held sacred. "Tactical," Martok's voice was steel wrapped in ice. "Target the cloning facilities. Precision strikes only. No orbital bombardment. I want the clones alive, but I want those facilities destroyed. We will not allow this abomination to continue." "Commander," his first officer protested, "that will bring the full weight of the Republic against us." "Then so be it," Martok roared. "The Klingon Empire does not tolerate slavery. We do not accept the reduction of warriors to programmed machines. If the Republic defends this practice, then the Republic is our enemy." He looked at his crew, at warriors who understood what he was fighting for. "Today, we stand for something greater than territory or power. Today, we stand for the very concept of what it means to be a warrior. With honor comes freedom. With strength comes choice. Any culture that denies that is a culture we will fight until our last breath." The Klingon fleet opened fire. Disruptor beams lanced down through Kamino's storms, targeting cloning vats, genetic laboratories, and control centers with surgical precision. Republic vessels moved to intercept, but Klingon birds of prey cloaked and struck from impossible angles. The Vorcha-class cruisers formed a defensive screen, their shields absorbing turbo-laser fire while their disruptors carved through Republic hulls. It was not a battle. It was a statement. The Klingon Empire would not accept a galaxy built on slavery, manipulation, and the reduction of warriors to tools. They would fight for honor, even if it meant fighting alone. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, clone troopers paused in their battles and looked up at the stars, wondering if somewhere out there, someone actually cared whether they lived or died as individuals rather than numbers. The hunt for honor had begun, and nothing, not the Force, not the Sith, not the combined might of Republic and Separatist, would stop warriors who had found a cause worth dying for. The Klingon Empire's assault on Kamino marked a turning point in the Clone Wars that no one, not the Jedi Council, not Darth Sidious, not even Martok himself, had fully anticipated. The destruction of half the cloning facilities sent shockwaves through Republic military planning. More significantly, intercepted intelligence about the inhibitor chips reached certain members of the Jedi Council, planting seeds of doubt that would grow into full investigations. Martok's fleet withdrew to the Klingon sector, bloodied but unbroken, carrying with them rescued clone troopers who chose to have their inhibitor chips removed. These clones became the first of what would be known as the Free Warriors, soldiers who fought not because of programming, but because they chose to stand against tyranny. The galaxy learned that the Force was not absolute, that prophecies could be disrupted, that warriors from beyond the stars could change destinies that seemed inevitable. Darth Sidious's perfect plan began developing cracks, small at first, but growing with each passing day. Master Yoda, humbled by the Klingons' example, began questioning assumptions the Jedi had held for millennia. If beings could exist outside the Force yet still fight for justice, what did that mean about the Jedi's role? Were they guides or simply another faction claiming divine authority? The Klingon Empire carved its territory in the Outer Rim, neither Republic nor Separatist, neither Jedi nor Sith. They stood as proof that honor could exist without mysticism, that strength could exist without the Force, that warriors could choose their own path in a galaxy that desperately tried to predetermine everyone's fate. Pre Vizsla and Deathwatch learned that emulating warrior culture without understanding its core principles made them pretenders, not warriors. True honor required more than armor and weapons. It required the courage to stand for principles even when the galaxy demanded compromise. Anakin Skywalker, recovering from his injury, found himself questioning his path for the first time. If the Klingons could fight without the Force, what did that mean about his own reliance on power? If warriors could choose honor over destiny, could he choose a different fate than the one prophecies predicted? And in the shadows, Darth Sidious adapted. The Klingons had disrupted his timetable, exposed cracks in his manipulation, and provided the Jedi with dangerous examples of what beings outside the Force could accomplish. But Sith survived through adaptation. through patience, through understanding that setbacks were temporary while the dark side was eternal. The Clone Wars would continue. The hunt for honor would persist. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the anomaly that had brought the Klingons still pulsed with unstable energy, a doorway to galaxies beyond, where other warriors, other civilizations, other philosophies awaited their chance to enter a galaxy far, far away. The Klingon Empire had taught the Star Wars galaxy a fundamental truth that both Jedi and Sith had forgotten. Destiny is not absolute. The Force does not control everything, and sometimes the greatest power comes not from ancient mysticism, but from warriors who refuse to surrender their honor, no matter what the galaxy demands of them. Commander Martok stood on the bridge of the Bortas, watching stars that would never be home but had become his hunting ground. Beside him, his warriors prepared for the battles ahead. The Sith would come, the Republic would negotiate, the Separatists would scheme, and through it all, the Klingon Empire would remain what they had always been. Warriors who chose their own fate, who defined their own honor, who proved that even in a galaxy bound by the Force, freedom was possible for those brave enough to claim it. Today was a good day to live. Tomorrow might be a good day to die. But every day was a good day to fight for something greater than yourself. Kapla. Victory. Not through destiny, but through choice. May the Force be with you. More stories await.